from an early age, we, as Black and brown women, begin to think of ourselves as either an asset, something valuable, cherishable, a treasure, or not. The coffee was on the table. Every single person just sat there and looked at me, expecting me to go get the coffee. I didn't move either. I said, somebody's going to go get it, but it's not going to be me. I mean, I'm sorry, but this racist America is the America I grew up in. This is the America I've always known.
Yeah.
Y'all, some of these folks, y'all just finding out. This been here the whole time. Ain't nothing new happening here, except that it's more overt.
A lot of people, do get their jobs through their network. It's important that we do have to network and reach out, include people on our success teams, people, who don't just look like us. Think about who do you know, who do you need to know, and who needs to know you.
Sometimes Black people are pitted against each other at work just to keep you out of the mix so that when the real deal goes down, you over there fighting. You're not even going to get the $500,000 project because you're over here trying to fight over the $2,000 thing that doesn't matter. This world is on fire now. Ain't nobody sleeping that I know of. It's a rough time. But that's why your podcast is so important. That's why we have to lift each other up. So first and foremost, strategize against the microaggression. But you gotta, this is where the sister part got to come out. You got to sister up. You got to sister strategize.
We are just so good at what we do professionally that we take ourselves for granted. We don't, recognize how much value we bring to an organization.
I want to talk about this workplace mammying chapter because I said...
What's Rhonda's favorite thing?
Oh,
I
please.
want to admit they did not want this in the book. They did not like the title.
It's a thing.
Random House didn't like the title.
Thing.
I was...
Hey everyone, welcome to the Coffee No Cream podcast. My name is Erin Braxton and I am the host of Coffee No Cream. Here on Coffee No Cream, we are unapologetically dedicated to Black women and we share what I like to call Coffee No Cream moments. Those things that happen to us Black women in business and in life just because we are Black women. Now today I have the biggest treat for you. We are going to be talking with Elaine Merrill Brown and Rhonda Joy McLean, the authors of the next little Black book of success, Black for a Reason. Just super excited about this. This is the third book in their trilogy. And basically what this is a handbook to help Black women navigate the corporate space. All right. When their publisher, Random House Penguin Books, reached out to me to have these women on the podcast, I was really, really excited because their messaging, what they're talking about is right in line with what we talk about. And I think what is necessary for Black women right now, despite everything that's going on in this country, helping us figure out how to navigate, how to deal with what we're dealing with. And these are, more mature women who have been in the game for years. Their resumes are impeccable. They come to you creatively, legally. And the third author of the book, Marcia Haygood, we just want to extend our condolences, recently passed away. So she is not joining us on the show, obviously. But I am talking to Elaine and Rhonda, and the conversation was amazing. So much fun, so much knowledge, so much wisdom. They sent me the book, and before the book came, I had the actual PDF. So I have lots of notes. I've flagged it. I've read it. And lots of good conversation. I didn't get to cover everything because there was just so much and the conversation just flowed so well. So you're in for a treat. Stay tuned to the end. Listen to this conversation because if you are in the corporate space and you're struggling, you're dealing with some things, these women are very inspirational and provide some great motivation and tips for you to follow. Now, before we get into it, I just want to ask that you please like, please share, please subscribe. The link is below for our Facebook group, so check it out where we continue the conversations over there. I also have a free educational resource tool where you have access to almost 2,000 free educational resources. Just go to coffeenocream.com/free. And I think that's it. So let's just get right into this episode with Elaine and Rhonda. I'll see you there. So welcome, Rhonda and Elaine. How are you today?
We're fantastic and happy to be here with you today.
Wonderful.
I'm so excited to have you here. I'm so excited. So guys, we've got the authors of the next little black book of success, and it's black for a reason, right?
Yes.
So super excited to have you guys on. These ladies are rock stars professionally, but I'm just gonna turn it over. We'll start with Elaine. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and then we'll move to Rhonda, and then we're going to get into some good stuff.
All right.
Okay. Well, first of all, thanks for having us, Erin. We're so excited to be here and sharing with your audience today. My name is Elaine Merrill Brown. I'm a daytime Emmy Award-winning writer, a former media executive who grew up mostly at HBO, Showtime. I've worked at many of the other networks, CBS, ABC, in various forms and capacity. Also an author, published author of 2 novels, Lemon City Playing by the Rules. I've written for Essence Magazine, won over 40 industry awards, and so happy to be in partnership with Rhonda and Marcia, who we lost recently. We're very saddened about that. Since 2010, to launch our leadership trilogy, the next Little Black Book of Success, which we're going to talk about today. But in 2010, we started with the Little Black Book of Success.
Okay, see, guys, I told you. Super impressive. Super impressive. All right, Rhonda, your turn.
All righty. Well, I'm Rhonda Joy McLean, and I'm an attorney of 40 years. I am an entrepreneur. I'm an executive coach now with clients across the country. And I'm a musician. I grew up in the South, and eventually we'll get to a little bit more about me. When I was 13, I integrated my high school with a sheriff with a gun. So that's a huge part of who I am. I'm the oldest of the 3 of us. I'm 73 because nobody tells you how old they are. But I think it's important because I'm not dead. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's just important because I think we get too locked into, it's got to be done by this. It's got to look like this. Success has to be defined this way. So I grew up in a family of musicians. My parents were music teachers, so I sing, I play all keyboards. I've had choir since I was a little girl. And frankly, I thought I would get a PhD in music or in early childhood education. But because, as you can see, I've got a mouth, and I'm very, very interested in what I would call social justice issues. I was very active in community organizing and politics and was encouraged to run for office and eventually went to law school. And I was fortunate that I came to meet Elaine through the lovely Marcia, our beloved Marcia, whom we just lost and whom we're really missing. And we're going to try to channel her as we talk with you. But Marcia took me to a networking dinner that Elaine hosted 26 years ago. So we really started out just as friends, Black women in high places, mostly by ourselves. We couldn't see nobody else that looked like us for miles. So Elaine was over in her space. Marcia was running HR in her space. I was the only Black woman attorney for Time Inc. So Essence, People, Sports Illustrated, Fortune, I had 200 clients in marketing. But what we found is that Elaine was smart enough and courageous enough to invite people, some of whom she didn't know, to this dinner. And we were like, how can we help each other? So we met quarterly. We called it Girls Night Out. And I was like, wasn't even supposed to be there. Marcia met me somewhere. She said, I know you at your desk with your head down. It was 7:00. I was at my desk with nobody else there because only Black women, we usually the last one there, first one in, last one out. And so Marcia took me in a cab. I went to where Elaine's dinner was, and that's how we got started.
Wow. Okay. So I can imagine only Black faces for miles. So tell us how the book came to be. Like, how did you guys decide? I mean, obviously you have experiences in the workplace, but tell us how you guys came together to write this book.
Well, initially I was actually invited by HBO to attend a leadership class, and already being a vice president in creative services, in a creative role, leading creative teams. The thought never occurred to me where I looked at myself as a leader because, I didn't have an MBA. I wasn't in the business building. I was in the creative building. And when I was invited one day to attend this leadership class, it seems like, day one, when they first started talking about leadership and introducing what we would be learning, I said, oh my goodness. I mean, that's when the aha came up and the light bulb went off. I said to myself, imagine how many Black women who already have great jobs, if only they had access, opportunity, and resources, how much further along in their career they could be. And having had 2 books already published by Random House, I thought it might be a good idea to write about this. Or how can I share this more broadly? And one of the first things in the class that they taught us to do was networking, but not in the way I had been doing it incorrectly. I had not been developing relationships. So when I got back to my desk in New York, one of the people I reached out to, well, the first person I reached out to was Marsha Haygood, who was an EVP at New Line Cinema, probably like not thinking she would say yes to my invitation to dinner, but just stepping outside of my comfort zone
Absolutely.
and doing what I was taught one of the leadership tools I should be doing in terms of networking, which is developing relationships. So that's how that came to be. And Rhonda's correct. I didn't know Rhonda, but I invited Marsha and a couple of other ladies that I knew. And they were all, I consider myself, I'm laughing because we're all around the same age, but the baby in the group, because I was the only vice president, everyone was above me. So I didn't necessarily do peer networking. I networked above my level.
Ooh, we need to talk about that later. I'm going to
Yes.
put a pin in that for later because networking, I believe, is really challenging for some of us, Black women, especially, internally inside of the office space. And, just from my conversations with other Black women, not really wanting to network, not really wanting to be bothered, just wanting to do the job and go home. But as we know, there are many things in the job description that aren't listed in the job description.
Right.
So this is just a part of the game if you want to be in it and play the game.
Yep.
So, okay. So I want to get into you guys' coffee, no cream moments. We've had some doozies. We've had some good ones. I don't think anybody's ever surprised. So we'll just start with Rhonda. Rhonda,
Yes,
tell
ma'am.
us, share with us one of your coffee, no cream moments. And I know we probably are going to touch a lot more, but just share with us just one that just stands out, that thing that happened to you because you are a Black woman in business.
Well, actually, I think I'm going to go back a little bit and start with being a Black girl in
Okay.
North Carolina who talked too much and asked too many questions. I've always talked fast. I grew up in a state where people don't talk fast as a rule. I was born in Chicago, where my dad's from. My mom's from Buffalo. They met at Talladega College, courted, and got engaged. And then they moved to North Carolina during Jim Crow in the 1950s because thousands of Black college students were recruited south because there was legally segregated school systems. So that was job security. My parents bought their first house. My brother was born there, all that. Just to say, it wasn't really my choice to be there, but they went there because that's where the jobs were. A lot of Black college degrees were not recognized in the North. My mother had tried to get a degree in the Buffalo school system, to which she had attended. They would not recognize her degree in education from Talladega, just to set some of the historical context there. So they were in North Carolina. We were in an all-Black community where Black people did own their own homes. My parents built their home, which we still have now. And I will just start with, it really was, well, I will start with being grateful that my parents encouraged me to read everything. I was a patron and still am of all libraries everywhere. Libraries are, I think, the underpinnings of our democracy, and that's where I was every week. So I already knew who, I knew who Paul Robeson was. I knew who Marian Anderson was from my house. And then from one of the benefits of being in a Black school, maybe all the taxes weren't spent equally, but every Friday we had an assembly where I had to recite, for my people. I had to learn poetry. And it just saddens me that a lot of our children just don't know what a great people we are and what a great legacy we are. But because I already knew that, I was kind of feisty, even at like 5. And so I was often in trouble because, in Sunday school, you're not supposed to be questioning the Sunday school teacher
Right.
about what it is she's saying. Well, I
Yeah.
did. So every summer, we went to either Buffalo, where my mom's parents were and all of my cousins, or Chicago, where my dad's folks were. Dad's family was smaller, not so many kids. So we went to Buffalo more often. And from Buffalo, we went to Canada. It's just over the bridge. And what I found is there's really a difference. There was a very great difference in how Canadians treated this little girl who talked too much. They didn't seem to mind that I asked questions, that I was curious, that I talked very quickly because my mind sparked. And all I'm saying is that from an early age, we, as black and brown women, begin to think of ourselves as either an asset, something valuable, cherishable, a treasure, or not. And I'm just grateful that even in that little town that I grew up in, there were good teachers. There were people who would reach out and help me. But I was accused by a black teacher of talking too much. And I went on a field trip. We won't go into the details. Basically, I talked to a white family. I initiated a conversation, as I had done in Canada a month before. I was now back in North Carolina where that wasn't done. You stayed in your lane. I never had. So it's interesting that it was a black adult who chose to chastise me for being human and asking a question. Perhaps she was afraid. Who knows what it was all about? But I've never forgotten that. I learned through therapy much later to forgive her. I think she thought she was protecting me.
Yeah.
Who knows? But she made me apologize to her entire class because I had gone on a class trip for something that I did not feel was wrong. All I did
Just
was ask. I just engaged in a conversation. So coffee no cream is not necessarily or initiated by a person who looks a certain way, a
yeah.
person who's a certain age. I think it has to do with your indoctrination mentally. Do you think you're good enough to be here? And the answer for me has to be, yes, I do. So I'll stop there.
Okay. Wow. Okay, so let me just make sure I understand. You
Uh-huh.
got chastised because you spoke to another another white person, teacher,
Yeah.
class.
No, we were on a field trip. We were
Okay.
out on, yeah. And so I was just, enjoying where we were. We were at some kind of historical site. And there was a family there, and the children and I were chatting, and I asked the adult, their parent, a question. It was very innocuous. It was very innocent. But the
Yeah.
fact is, what I believe that I was being told was, and I think, let's give the lady grace,
Yeah.
to not get in trouble with anyone, stay in your lane. Don't be initiating outside of people who look like you, and certainly outside of people from a 10-year-old, 9 or 10, to an adult. Because I was not taught to differentiate. Yes, you were respectful of adults, but
Sure.
you could still ask questions of them. I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to spend too much time, but I hope the context makes
Yeah,
sense.
it totally does. And I'm just to get an understanding, what was the apology supposed to be to the class?
The apology I think she was looking for is that what I think the intent was is that I'm sorry I didn't stay in my lane, and that's not what I said. I think I
Mm-hmm.
said I'm sorry that you didn't understand that I was just being polite and courteous because
Good
I'm
for
sorry, that's
you.
who I am. Well, but it was very scary because, of course, my
Mm-hmm.
mom, who
Yeah.
taught in the same school that I was in, was
Yeah.
not happy that I
Yeah.
was in trouble. But I don't want to spend too much more time on this. I just want to say that coffee, no cream moments can have more than one connotation.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay,
It-
stop there.
all kinds of connotations. Okay, Elaine, I'm gonna let you share your coffee no cream
I
moment.
know Rhonda's a tough act to follow after that one, but I feel like my brain is floating like a file cabinet, going back through my history and all of the things which, to your point, are now referred to as microaggressions.
Mm-hmm.
I would say most recently, maybe when I was working in advertising,
Mm-hmm.
just and in the South, when and working with business owners, mostly white business owners. And, when I walked into the room, I mean, just walk into the room, it's like they had already made up their mind that they weren't going to trust me with, a $10,000 budget or a $20,000 budget.
Yeah.
Well, that's just saying everyone, but just in general. But it's a feeling that you get of not being trusted just based on the color of your skin and based on being a woman, but mostly color.
Right. And the reason we share these stories and we get into it is because what I've found, I thought, you said you work in isolation. And I think a lot of Black women are very much still feeling isolated. And I worked in advertising for many years before I went off on my own. And they would parade me in the room when they needed to show. I mean, I'm talking about big agencies. I worked for Omnicom when I first started, and then I worked for another really pretty large privately held ad agency in Dallas. And, big accounts, blah, blah, right? But, they would parade me in the room when they needed to show that they had representation on the account or in the agency, when they needed to show they understood Black people. But they didn't want to give me the money, the promotions, the they just really tore me down in that place. So I very much understand that profession. So, it just continues.
Advertising's all sales. It's all about the money, which I've always been curious about that world because it seemed very similar to the media world, but very, very different. I think the media world is diverse for a reason. They understand, diversity. It's just more of an inclusive, my experience anyway, in an environment versus the advertising world where a lot of money is at stake with every single project, and which I came to recognize really, relatively quickly, and so.
Yeah. If I could just insert a Marsha moment here, because Marsha, who I think in age is between Elaine and me, Marsha started off as an executive assistant in a movie company. And over a period of years, just through sheer determination and doggedness and persistence and courage, made it to be EVP, head of HR for a major movie company. That was across a period of years. But one of the things she taught me, and I think Elaine can speak for herself on, but for me, I certainly grew up in the South where there's too much emphasis, I think, on needing to be liked as opposed to wanting to be respected. Leaders, and you find that throughout all of our books, we talk a lot about strategy, but we talk about the whole need to be respected first. Liked is nice. Respect is how you get stuff done. And you certainly want to inspire and empower people. But I kept saying, because like you just described, Marsha worked for a man who absolutely could not stand her. And I think he was either the CEO or the CFO. And in our court, in the Elaine-centered wonderful dinners we met quarterly, one of the things she said is, I'm not letting anybody steal my joy. This is good money. This is a good job. I'm good at what I do. And plus, I'm head of HR. I know where all the bodies are buried. So they're scared of me. But some of the things you described, some of the, I've been confused certainly as an attorney early in the 80s in New York. Just in the room, they thought I was the court reporter, the secretary, the caterer. And I learned, don't get up. I remember taking a deposition. I was the only person of color in the room and the only woman in the room. There were 12 people in the room. The coffee was on the table. Every single person just sat there and looked at me, expecting me to go get the coffee. I didn't move either. I said, somebody's going to go get it, but it's not going to be me. I also learned not to take notes or not to take notes in their presence, because then they assume that you were the secretary. So, but I had to learn that. And what I learned from Marsha was never let the fact of enmity, it's not like you're going to take harassment. I'm not saying you have to stay there and get assaulted or harassed. But for me, I learned to turn some of the microaggression, if not around, I learned to face it and not let it make me leave just for that. There may be other reasons you leave a job. But she was very helpful in saying, well, I don't need for the man to like me. I need him to respect me and understand that I'm doing my job and pay me. And we actually worked in our little dinners. I rehearsed what to say about money because I didn't learn anything about how to talk about money.
Yeah.
Growing up in a Black Christian home, money was the root of all evil. And it's not money is the root of all evil. The correct quote is the love of money
Money.
is the root of all evil. That's a whole other thing. So anyway,
No,
Miss Martha helped me with that.
I appreciate you bringing that up. I think because, I'm a little younger than you guys, I guess in the generation beneath you, but
That's okay. We don't mind.
no, I love talking to my aunties and all of that. We're further removed from, you saw more than we saw, and the generations after me saw less than I saw. And I think maybe some would call us sensitive, because I have these conversations with my dad, and he's 82. He was born in Mississippi. My grandparents were sharecroppers. They moved to St. Louis when he was 5. He was around during all of that because he was born in 43. And so even watching the way he interacts, because my dad isn't educated. He has had an auto body shop for many, many years and had his own business. And I feel like the generations that come after you, maybe we're more sensitive, maybe we're more fed up, maybe it's because we haven't experienced stuff. Like when I see younger people talk about just on social media and on the brink of tears because they've had their first race incident at the age of 25. I'm just like, damn, is it really? Is this the first time this is happening? So when you share stories about the microaggressions and what Marsha taught you is to earn that respect, to gain that respect, I wonder, is it even possible for us to really be respected? I know that's a question. Is it worth it, with everything that's going on right now? Should we bother, or should we just, leave and go get our own thing? I know that everybody isn't going to have their own thing. Everybody cannot have their own thing. They're not conditioned or designed to be their own bosses. People will have jobs and work in these environments. But I guess I just am trying to start or ask the question if maybe, and I'm going to go over some of the things in the book, if maybe the younger generations are not seeing it the same as you guys because you guys have seen more, you're closer to it, the way you were raised. Rhonda, when you said you desegregated a school, now people are saying we should have stayed segregated. Even Black people are saying that, so I'm just curious your thoughts on, are we sensitive or too sensitive, or what do you think about the younger folks?
I'll just start, Erin. I mean, you're right. It's a generational thing. I mean, Rhonda and I experienced civil rights movement. We experienced 1955 Brown versus the Board of Education, to desegregate schools. And I'm sure there were schools in the South that probably didn't desegregate until maybe the 2000s.
Yeah.
But we certainly had, we didn't have a book like ours. We did not have a tool book. We wrote the book that we wished we had when we were coming along. So a lot of my initial experiences entering, when the doors began to open, so to speak, I just, my personal experience was didn't know how to manage. I kind of ignored it and attributed it really to ignorance. Okay, but they don't know who I am. They don't know what I can do. So I need to, stay focused. I mean, at that time, focused was my word. Marsha and Rhonda, we now talk about being strategic. I mean, and intentional. So I think a lot of you guys and younger, have a sense of entitlement maybe because things, because we went through as pioneers what we went through, that things are supposed to be easier for the next generation, and certainly things were. So I think that's maybe why a sense of, personalizing, some of the things that happen to younger generations. They or becoming sensitive to things that happen because they have different expectations as well they should. One of the reasons we wrote the book is to give young people, other generations, the tools they need to be strategic and to stay focused, and so that they understand that there are leadership principles. I didn't grow up knowing that there are leadership principles. No one talked about leadership to me. I didn't learn about business. In fact, I had a colleague years ago say, Lane, when we talk, you never seem to be interested in the business. Well, I'm a creative person. Why do I need to be interested in the business? But, years later, fast forward, it's like, yeah, well, they go hand in hand. Whatever you do, all has to, at the bottom line is the business and how it impacts the bottom line. So,
Yeah.
one of the reasons we wrote the book, and I'm passionate about sharing with young people, because when they enter the workforce, I want them to have the tools, or at least be aware of what they need to know to be successful.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons we wrote this book, which is the third in the trilogy, the first book we thought of as A Mentor in Your Pocket. We thought we were writing what Elaine just described. I thought we were writing for people getting out of college, people starting in the workplace. What we found is that all kinds of people, black, white, male, female, people from other countries even wrote us and said, this book is practical, it's useful for me. I'm leaving the workforce at 50 to start my own business. Yeah. Not necessarily because of microaggressions. I'm just tired of doing this. I don't want to work for anybody else. I want to work for myself. But this time, what you spoke to, Aaron, there's something else really going on. I think we're seeing sort of a cultural revolution with AI, with the assaults upon us that are more overt. I mean, I'm sorry, but this racist America is the America I grew up in. This is the America I've always known.
Yeah.
Y'all, some of these folks, y'all just finding out. This been here the whole time. Ain't nothing new happening here, except that it's more overt.
Yeah.
So for me, it's always been about the sisterhood. It's always been about your faith, your moral ground. And it's always been about us helping, lifting each other up. I don't know of a time when there wasn't some black woman who wasn't there to help me. I would say for maybe one person out of every 25 may have put me down or hadn't been so helpful, or I reached out and they didn't reach back. But everybody else has been helpful. And we wrote the book, hopefully, that generation after generation, you can take something. Some of it's about entrepreneurship. Some of it's about authenticity. Some of it's about leading after loss. I've lost my husband and my daughter. I hate that. But I have to keep going. Just like young people, this is not fun. I have a son who's 35, who's getting ready to get married. I don't like it that he has to deal with all this crap, but the reality is we can and we will.
And, the other thing, just going back to, what we talked about earlier is isolation. I mean, one of our chapters, actually in our first book, is regardless of your position, learn all you can about your department, your company, and your industry, so that Black women won't feel so isolated in doing their jobs or in their company, because they have opportunities to reach outside, and it takes an effort. Myself, I consider myself to be an introvert, but I'm getting better. I have to work hard at it. I have to work hard at not sitting at my desk, putting my head down and doing my job. That's not working. That's working hard, not working smart necessarily. Yeah. And a lot of people, do get their jobs through their network and not just applying, on LinkedIn or Indeed. So it's important that we not just look at our jobs being the be all and end all, but that we do have to network and reach out and include people on our success teams, or our board of directors, as we refer to it, and people who don't just look like us, because we need to expand the people we know, we connect with, and have relationships with in the world.
I'm going to pivot into something that has come up more times than it's terrible, but how we treat each other.
Yes.
In the workplace.
Yes. It
can be atrocious. It can be horrible.
Yes.
Have you guys experienced that? And if you have, can you share a story or some tips or suggestions on how to deal with it? Because it's so hurtful. It's worse. And I said this in one of my videos. I just said the way Black women can treat each other, it makes what white people do and say to us sometimes a walk in the park, I think, because it's more painful coming from other Black women. So have you guys experienced that? I know you were the only ones in the room for many, many years, but can you share in how to deal with that and handle that?
Well, I will start kind of the other way round. We, the three of us as Black women who started out as friends, were friends for 10 years almost before Elaine had the great idea of working on this book. We are friends first, then co-authors of 3 books, and business partners. We own a business together. So what we've tried to model is not that. Is the antithesis of Black women treat Black women like blah, blah, fill in the blank. I have had hurtful things happen. Sometimes I've learned to say, and this is something Marcia too would say, is sometimes I've had to sit down with a person to say, help me understand what's going on. Do you feel that there's something in the workplace? Is there something I'm doing that we need to discuss? And almost always, if I've been willing to have the conversation, there's something going on that may not have anything to do with me. Mm-hmm. Either that person is intimidated because she or he was the only one and they were getting whatever there was to get, as you described, whether you're being trotted out as a show horse or whether you're being given the opportunity and there's nobody else. You don't want anybody else to have this one opportunity because you think that's all there is. Mm-hmm. So some of it, I think, is where am I in my confidence about myself? If I'm pretty cool with me, then I'm not going to just die because a person, no matter what color that person is, but particularly if they look like me, is unkind or spreads a rumor or starts an investigation or tries to have me fired, all of which has happened to me. I've learned, number one, to the extent that I'm able, let's not take it personally. This is Marcia talking. Let's step back. What is happening here? What is the real deal? Did they hear something that's not true about me? That's been true. There was a whole lie that was being perpetrated. Sometimes, this is not nice to say, but sometimes Black people are pitted against each other at work just to keep you out of the mix so that when the real deal goes down, you over there fighting. Mm-hmm. You're not even going to get the $500,000 project because you over here trying to fight over the $2,000 thing that doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. I learned that in the law firm where I was the first Black woman attorney. And I will confess that sometimes I got in my own way. I overthought. I worked too hard, not smart. That's another Marcia thing. So I would say first, what is the context? Is it worth it to you to try to get it straight? Can you talk to the person? I'm not saying you have to. You may not feel that you can. I've done it. It's not easy. Again, Elaine's point, step outside your comfort zone. But where I have, it's almost always led to the point of higher understanding. So instead of me against you, Aaron, or Elaine, can it be Elaine, Aaron, and Rhonda against what is this that's happening inside this place? Is it the place? Are they really saying on their website that they want Black people here, but then they treat us like they don't want Black people here? Because, you asked somewhere in your notes to us, how can you find out about the culture? Well, I do. This is where networking comes. I pull in all my favorites. Almost all of my jobs across a 50-year career have come through other people of all colors and all ages. People that I've interned with, people that I've been on boards with, people that have seen me work out in the community, and inside the job, mentors and sponsors. But I feel like it's worth it to assess the situation and try to figure out if you are seeing it properly. Sometimes you just are. I've had people come and cry on my couch. Yes, it is a horrible situation. And yes, I'll help you get out. I've helped people get other jobs within the same company because they were being treated like crap by people. Sometimes Black, sometimes not. Sometimes other women, sometimes not. But I find that more often than not, there may be more to the story. And so I try to see if I can get to the bottom of it. And then and you're right to think about generationally. My stepson, who's 35, he might not want to go to the Met. He's like, well, shoot, if they can't appreciate what I bring to the table, I'm going to either build my own table or go to somebody else's table. Right. And when he has done that, sometimes those very people that were acting up come to woo. And then it's too late. He's like, okay, you lost your chance. Right. The last thing I will say about this is what I love about, as horrible as this time is, this is the real America. I'm sorry. This is the one that I knew. And this is the one that we've been trying to make live up to what they say in the Constitution and all that. There are some real good people of all colors and of all ages. I agree with Elaine that your team, your success team, should be as diverse as possible, because to me, that's how your life will become rich and full. It'll lead to your next opportunities, whether it's clients for your business, Aaron, whether it's, a way to make money to send our children to school, whatever it is. I welcome the different thoughts that the next generations have about work, because with AI and with global leadership teams, which we also talk about in our book, work ain't what it was. Work has become something else. And so you have to decide, do I even want to do this at all? If so, here's some ways you can do it. If I don't, then we say, well, here's some ways you can get ready to do your own thing, like you're already doing successfully. But all of that, I think we need in order to evolve. It can't be like it was. We have to make something new and better.
And I agree with Rhonda. I mean, you said something key. I mean, you have to decide. You have to make the decision if you're going to stick with the job or stick with the role, or put up with some of the nonsense. You have to make that decision and not let it discourage you, and just focus on your strategy and what your end goal is. Always keep the end goal in mind. That's something that, Marcia used to always say and share with us. So that's important as well. And sometimes, we do get in our own way, unfortunately. And, not to keep reflecting back to our first book, but it is a trilogy. We had something that we referred to as a cultural code, which addressed some of the issues or things that we did to sabotage ourselves in the workforce. And, it starts in really changing your mindset and not to take it personally, because work is not for the most part personal, because we have to separate ourselves, our identity from our work, in that brand and who we are as individuals. So there's a lot that's put on us in terms of how we think and how we perceive situations, and just how we navigate, that space in the world, knowing that this country's built on systemic racism, and that's not going away. So that's, it's an illusion to think that all the work that has been done by our ancestors, that, racism is magically going to, just be eliminated or disappear. It's not. So that's the space we have to navigate in. And, Du Bois talked about that in, Souls of Black Folk, we have to have a sense of double consciousness. So it's not only looking at ourselves, but looking at ourselves through the eyes of others. That's always going to be our challenge.
Yeah.
If we're going to stay in this game and be successful.
And I think that pluralism makes us stronger than other people. The fact that, and you have talked about it, Aaron, it may be a pain in the ass, to get a little salty, that we have to do more, because we have to think about what they're thinking about as well as what we're thinking about. But to me, that means I think of us as pluralistic, and I think that makes us stronger and better, faster and more brilliant and more productive. And I think that's why we make the better choice for most leadership roles. But that's intimidating to other people.
Okay, you guys have said so much, and I saw an opportunity to slide in the networking conversation, but hold on. Let's talk about the whole duality thing right now. And using it to your advantage, our code switching, using it to your advantage, because that's something that you guys wrote about in the book that I definitely wanted to touch on. People are sick of it. Like I say, I guess I code switch. My first language is, I guess, white girl, because I was raised in the suburbs. People have said disgusting things to me in the comments about the way I talk. They said it triggered them. They've said it's performative. Like, I couldn't really talk like this. No. I really do. I really do. And it was a big thing when I was a kid. I have a cousin. Every time I would talk when I was a little girl, she would tell everybody, be quiet, she's talking. Because it was like it was a big deal, that I actually talk like this. So code switching, I've learned to code switch maybe the other way, but obviously not really, because, I have for real blackity black parents, right? So it's just, where we were raised. Right. But let's talk about that. And, using that to your advantage, because I found it as an advantage. I found it as an advantage when I'm on the phone, being in white spaces since I was a little girl, and how I understand more than, say, somebody who hasn't been. I mean, and I'm not saying that to brag. I'm just saying that they say mixed race people have a better understanding of racism than black people, because they slip up, they forget, they talk in front of them, they know things because they're dealing with both sides of the family. So I want to talk about using that to your advantage and how you guys define doing that.
I'll just, and Erin, by the way, I love you calling yourself the rebel geek.
I'm so geeky.
I know, I love just you say that. With regards to just, the first thing that popped into my head was reading the room. It's having a level of consciousness. Who is your audience? Who are you talking to? I think it's just, it's being aware, having a certain level of emotional intelligence. It's just not how you relate to yourself, but how you relate to others. And, these are topics we talk about in our book, and these are topics that can be studied. I mean, the chapters in our book are kind of short, they're like bite-sized or conversational. So we hope that they will pique people's interest to learn more about these topics. But reading the room is important, and just having a sense of awareness of who you're speaking to is something that's been very helpful to me in terms of code switching, and it's nothing that I grew up learning about, because I had black parents too. I grew up in a
We all did.
And then when I went to an all-white women's college in New England, I had a totally different experience. It was shocking to me that there were women in, who my classmates who had never met a black person in person, a real black person, other than getting their perception of us on the news, which wasn't, as we all know, not always very positive. But so that's, in terms, I think it's another tool that we put in our toolkit, is to be able to code switch and just, read the room and know the situation, know who our audience is.
And I think, as we say in our book, and Elaine she's a great researcher, and in a lot of my board work, am aware of the McKinsey reports, which point out that diverse leadership teams are the best, the strongest, and they make the most money. So these people out here who claim, anything negative about diversity are just wrong. And their own researchers, because McKinsey is definitely not a black company. It's a global company that trains leaders around the world. I also have been trained at the Center for Creative Leadership in Greensboro, which trains CEOs from around the world. And I started training there when I was in my 20s. And what they keep pointing out is that when you have more than one point of view, and we grow up with a dual point of view, this duality, and I think that then if you speak more than one language, if you've done any traveling at all, which I'm sure all three of us have, to other countries, you bring all of that with you to the table. And today's problems are not simple problems. So I know for the last 15 years before I left Time, was managing a global workforce. So there were people in Singapore who were doing telemarketing. There were people in the Philippines. There were people in Japan. There were people in London. And there were people in South America. And then there were people even in different parts of this country, California, Florida, New York. And every single one of them had different time zones, different cultural expectations. They also define work differently because, everybody doesn't think of work the same way New Yorkers do. New Yorkers get rewarded for being stark raving mad crazy, never going home, working all night. And you're kind of proud of the fact that you've had no sleep for 3 days. Yeah. It's nuts. It's just effing nuts, okay?
Yeah.
And we have to stop normalizing that. But then when you start your own business, as I'm sure you know, Erin, you're going to work hard too, and there's going to be some craziness. So I feel that the pluralistic approach that we are given from birth, you don't have to call it anything. Just the fact that you have to be aware of what other folks are doing as well as what you're doing, and how to speak in a way that people will hear you. So I don't think we're all speaking rather properly right now.
Right.
But I want to be understood by your audience. I want them to hear what we're saying, and
Right.
hopefully it will be useful. So I think of plurality as it's a strategic way of getting your message across, as opposed to being something you have to get tired of because you are kissing up to, Uncle Charlie or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
I tried to think of it strategically, and again, Miss Marcia helped to instill that in my head. It's like, how is what you're doing helping you move in the direction you want to go? If it ain't helping you move in the direction you want to go, why are you in fact doing it?
Right.
So that's where we're trying to come from in the book, is we're not telling you what to do. We're not telling you what goals to set. We're telling you to set some, get somebody to help you, and move forward.
I love it. I love it. That I never even thought about it like that. I think I do it naturally. I know your audience. I know that when I go into certain rooms or I'm invited into certain spaces, it is what it is. Like, I can get mad about it if I want to, but
Yeah, don't get mad
what's the
about it.
point,
Exactly. What's the point?
Yeah. Okay, so let's now wrap it back around to the networking component, because in your book, you write, before joining an organization, learn as much as possible about its mission, values, and vision. If the values, vision, and standards of behavior do not align with yours, you should look elsewhere. So we talked about it a little bit, or Rhonda talked about it a little bit, like you pull in all the favors and things like that. I want to talk about this as it relates to the networking component, because I think networking is very intimidating for a lot of people. And now there's different ways to network, it's LinkedIn and, taking coffee appointments and doing, like lunches and things like that. How do you guys really network in a way where it's beneficial? And how do you really find out about an organization? Do you just end up, you said everything that you've gotten, Rhonda, has been due to your network, like jobs, opportunities. So I just want to talk more about, do you just go to the places that people? Okay, explain.
No, I'm going to ask Elaine to go first because I love the way she talks about networking, because she describes herself as being a bit shy. So I want
Okay.
her to start.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Rhonda. Well, the first thing I want to do is channel Marcia,
Yeah.
who always said, think about who do you know, who do you need to know, and who needs to know you. And that kind of sums it up for me entirely in terms of, being strategic about my networking. And in fact, for most of my career, I was not strategic and I did not network properly. And it's not until, first of all, it's never too late to start networking. I just want to say you don't have to, begin in your 20s. I mean, you can start anytime, and think about what your goals are and who you know and who you want to know. I think is important. And what kinds of environments do you want to be in? Who do you want to learn from? Do you want to learn more about AI? Then, maybe join a women's group that specializes in tech, or, doesn't have to be a women's group. If you're work in the media, maybe you want to try to get into the Producers Guild and go to events and just, break the ice. I mean, you can go online, you can Google what are some good icebreakers. But you can meet someone by simply saying, well, how did you hear about this event? And just start a conversation. I think stepping outside your comfort zone has a lot to do with networking. It's something that we have to do in order to be successful. That's how you get clients, right, Erin? I mean, you have to
Yeah.
sort of, or anyone who's an entrepreneur is going to have to, build a business, and they're going to have to find ways to network. Could be someplace like church and build a brand and let people know who you are and what services you can provide to them. So networking is, and Marcia, I could not compete with Marcia's level of networking. But I learned a
Nobody
lot
could.
from Marcia.
Nobody could. She
She
was the
could go
queen.
to, 15 networking events, in any given month, and Elaine might go to 2 or 3. In fact, I'm going to a networking event next week, and someone just invited me to another networking event on the same day. I have a luncheon and then an evening, and I'm like, Don, do I want to do two of these things in the same day?
Yeah.
And then it's like, Elaine, yes, do two of these things in the same day. So it's like, positive self-talk. You have to, talk to yourself, pray on it, and do what's best for you. Because from a strategic standpoint, I mean, that's the goal we set for ourselves. There's something we want to accomplish. We have to be intentional and purposeful.
And I just want to just go back to basics here. Networking is relationship building. Networking, it's not like it's not like going to the dentist. I have to network, I have to have my tooth pulled.
Yeah.
I mean, it may feel like that because you feel uncomfortable. And I like Elaine's strategy. If you're in a room where you don't know anybody, start with one person, ask how they got there. And then maybe the two of you could go to the next person. But part of me, I'm sort of a hybrid. I had a Broadway, like Gypsy Rose Lee kind of mom who was all the way live. She had 200 voice choirs that did huge productions. My father was much more philosophical and quiet. I learned my love of reading and sort of peace from him. So I'm a hybrid. When I'm out, I'm all the way live. When I'm home, I'm kind of flip flops, funky t-shirt, leave me alone.
Yeah.
But I do feel that networking is, and we try to write as much as we can, and even in the workbook that came between the two books, we tried to give you some itty bitty steps, because I think people think of it as an ask, and I think that's the wrong way to approach it. I'm not networking to get something from you. I'm networking to see what we have in common or what can we share, so that I'm still hearing from people that I met 25 years ago. It could have been on a beach. It could have been an event. It could be at a church. It could be at a retreat. It could be on a bus. It could be on the subway. So you never quite know. I think we limit ourselves in terms of thinking like, oh my God, I have to go to an event. Number one, you don't have to be at an event to network. All you have to do is reach out to a person. You can do it online. You can do it at the water cooler. If you don't have a water cooler, create a virtual water cooler.
Yeah.
If you're uncomfortable with it, then create your own network of people who don't like to network. That's a network. And I have encouraged people, like, what is it that you don't like? Well, I have to introduce myself. Well, who do you already know? Start with them. And then put 5 of them together and then decide, how can we help each other? I just feel like we have to just be more creative in our thinking. And Black people are nothing if not creative. We can take nothing and turn it into $1 million. Look at rap. Look at tap. Look at just everything we've ever done. Look at food. I'm amazed at how we can take, the scraps that we were allegedly given and turn them into enterprise. So anyway, I'll stop there.
Yeah, and I think just not looking at networking in a negative way. I mean, look at it as a positive way. What can come out of it? How can this, opportunity benefit me? Because I know that's how I used to look at networking. It's like, oh, it's an effort, it's a chore, it's a hardship. But no, change your mindset about how you think about some of these things is a good place to start, and just try it. Just try it and see, and you might be the first. We talk about for the shy people to go early, so you're not, you don't come late to the party where people have already gathered in their groups, but come early so you can check out the room and see who you could see, and start meeting people early so you feel more comfortable. And you never know, you may be the last person to leave the we're having so much fun.
And the people that you meet, send them one way to follow up. One thing Marsha did way back when, you could tell how old we are. We had business cards that weren't those things. What do you call those things? What do you call them, Elaine? Those things.
QR code.
Yeah,
Thank
QR
you.
code.
Thank you. See, I knew you little baby girls. I knew you would know. But we had cards that had white board on the back, so you could write, and I would write down Erin, and what I would have written down for you is Erin, cool glasses, love her hair, and I would write down big ad companies, definitely corporate smooth, but Erin, entrepreneur, and then I would try to find out something you like do you like murder mysteries, do you like to travel? And then Miss Marsha literally had, I don't even know, but I learned from her, It's not just what they do, it's who they are and what they like. And so 3 months later, if I haven't heard from you, I would check in and say, Erin, I heard that you were going to London. Did you really enjoy that trip? I'd love to have just a Zoom chat with you just for 5 minutes. And I'm telling you now, it's not an ask. I'm very interested in your career journey. And I'd love to have you talk to my kids, I'm making that up. Or I'd just like to hear it because I'm considering, maybe making a move, and I'd love to get the advice from you, so that it's more of it's talking rather than I'm not trying to get you to give me a job. I'm not, because some people, I'll just tell you about LinkedIn and then I'll hush. I really hate it when LinkedIn people that I don't know write to say, oh, Rhonda, oh, we haven't talked in years. I'm thinking, number one, strike one. Whose fault is that? Okay. And then number two, I see that you're connected to Erin Braxton. I'd love to be on her podcast, Coffee and Cream. Could you connect me to her? I'm thinking to myself, oh, hell no. You don't just, after 12 and a half years of nothing, just all of a sudden link up with me to ask for something. That is not networking. That's just manipulation. I don't even respond to that. So to me, if you ain't relationship building, then you need to step back and reassess your approach to what networking is.
I just had something like that happen to me. Somebody reached out to me like, oh, they wanted me to be on, but they want me to interview them. And it's just like, I don't know you. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I think, even as far as networking, and you can look at it as networking because LinkedIn is interesting. I'm trying to get a foothold over there because I've been ignoring it, but I see it can be valuable, and I met people that are really utilizing it, and it's been extremely valuable for them. But also, I feel like a form of networking, whether you could call it marketing or personal branding or whatever, but is personal branding, like putting yourself out there. I contacted somebody must have been about the podcast, this girl that I know. We've just been out of touch for many years, but I was like, oh my gosh, I want to talk to you. She's like, oh, I love what you're doing. Months later, she called me yesterday about a 6-figure project that I'm just like,
great.
I don't know if it's going to come through or not. I have no idea. It was just like, would you be interested? Well, of course I would be interested in that, but you are in the room and you're not in the room. Like, your name is in the room, but you're not in the room. So I found with networking, I like to have coffees, that could be my networking. I find sometimes networking events are very awkward. It's hard when you go there and you're just standing there and you're just kind of like, okay, who looks approachable? Like, let me go and figure out something to say.
And don't even overthink it.
Yeah.
Just do it. I kind of look at it as like acting, because you are performing to some extent.
Yeah.
At least for me, that's very helpful. And just extend an arm, a hand, and say, hi, I'm so-and-so. I'm thrilled to be here. Don't know what to expect, but, how did you get invited? It could be something really as simple as that, just to start a conversation, and the person's not receptive, to move on to the next person. But that, that's of course called working the room. And when you do network, that's how you get around and meet new people.
And if you're not getting involved or you don't know about these events right away, do what you're saying. Just have a coffee with somebody. Just reach out to somebody. Somebody said, I lived in LA for a long time, and a lot of people are full of shit out there, right?
Yes.
They'll just say, oh my God, we have to get together. And it doesn't happen. So when people say that to me now, I really try to follow up. I don't really think that's an LA thing. I just think people say that and people really don't follow up. So I think you have to be intentional, and you can't always wait on the invitation. You have to press for the meeting and the interaction with somebody. So yeah, those events, they're not my favorite, let me just tell you, but I've been to so many.
It depends on what you want the outcome to be,
Yeah.
if it's worth it.
And I agree that I think we just need to redefine everything. Networking doesn't have to be 1,000 people. It doesn't have to be 500 people. It can be coffees. And now it can be a Zoom chat. I do a lot of networking chats where I'm mentoring young lawyers or aspiring lawyers. It's 15 minutes. What's 15 minutes? I can figure out 15 minutes. For some of them, it's going to lead to a long-term relationship. For some of them, it's not. They just want advice for whatever. I did that yesterday with someone, and happy to do it because so many people of all stripes and ages and genders have helped me. So yeah, we believe also in passing it forward. I think that's our last chapter. So always looking for a way to share, just like what you're doing, Erin, in this podcast, is helping people who may not be quite able yet to
Yeah.
do some of the things we're talking about. Who knows? They may have suffered a loss. They may have been out of the workforce for a while. They may have been caregiving. I caregave for my mom for 6 months before she passed last year. Had no idea, it was a precious, sacred experience, which I would not have missed. But a lot of things stopped, including my writing on the book. So the ladies were lovely and kind of held me up and, let me breathe until I could come back to them. So I think networking is also like that. Every relationship in the network is not going to be the same. I have one friend I heard from in Pasadena this morning. We see each other maybe once every 5 years. I adore her. Black woman. Fabulous black woman. But I don't have to see her. And we don't talk on the phone for hours. I have other people I text every day.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it just depends. And I think professional networks the same, like mentoring and sponsoring. It depends on the people. It doesn't have to all look the same. So don't compare what you're doing to what Elaine is doing and say, oh, well, I'm not a good networker because I didn't go to 2 events in one day. Like Elaine
Yeah.
is getting
That's
ready.
a lot. That's a
And
lot.
I know that's an improvement, but I've worked my way up to that, Erin. I've worked my way up to
That's a
that.
lot.
It's a lot.
Honestly.
It's a lot.
Well, let's talk about, you guys talk about having supporters, especially like in an organization or even not in an organization. I think this is challenging for a lot of Black women because, sometimes naturally we're looking for those supporters to look like us and they don't always look like us. How do you recommend going about that, getting and finding the support internally? I'm talking about for people who, are in corporate positions and they want to stay in corporate positions.
I'll start and Elaine, you
Yeah.
can jump in.
Okay.
The first thing, and again, we're going to channel Marsha. Marsha would say you need to be the kind of person that somebody wants to mentor. So I've learned, put your best foot forward first, rather than starting first by going knocking on doors saying, will you help me? Will you be my mentor? And I don't mean that in an ugly way. I'm not saying you shouldn't ask for help. But to me, I think that I want to be the kind of person that people want to help. And I also want to be the kind of person, as you said, Erin, who are going to want to speak my name in rooms that I'm not in, which is what sponsors usually do. So I found that, like Elaine, I got invited to several different leadership retreats away from Time Warner, but some of whom by people I never got to exactly know who they were. I just found out. I got a letter saying, you've been nominated to be a blah, blah, blah. So some of it is, if you're putting your best foot forward, trust me that somebody's watching you. Trust me that if you're a Black woman in anywhere, people are watching you. So people can help you, and I know that sometimes that makes you a target. But for me, 9 times out of 10, it has led to someone wanting to get to know me, where I have not had to go ask for mentors. I've been able to create relationships inside my work, and I'm still friends with people that I used to work with, and they don't all look like me, and they're not all a particular age. I want to just talk about reverse mentoring. Some of my good friends now who are helping me with AI and helping me like getting on Riverside to get on your show, they are like half my age. So we call that reverse mentoring. So making sure that in your board of directors, or what Elaine calls our success team, are people who are younger than you, who know stuff you don't know.
I think it's really important to acknowledge that, because I'm 51 and, I love to talk to younger people. I have a girl I met, we're like accountability partners. We run a productivity training and she's like in her 30s and her husband is a engineer for LinkedIn. And whenever we talk, it's just like, no, what are people doing? Like, what do I need to do? Like, just introduces me to stuff, because I'm at a different stage in the whole thing than she is. But, younger people sometimes have their finger on the pulse on things that we just do not. And I think a lot of times older people, as we get older, we want to believe that younger people can't do anything for us, and I think completely ridiculous.
Yeah, that is completely ridiculous.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
And
completely ridiculous.
yeah, each generation even works differently. I think this
Yeah.
is the first time that four generations are actually working together at one company at the same time or in the
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
same
Mm-hmm.
office.
Yeah.
So in each generation, can benefit the other. And I think for young people who growing up with social media and technology can definitely help some of the older generation. I know I have to rely on the young people to help me with that. And upskilling is something we talk about in our book as well. It's something the older generation must do in order to stay into the workforce and not reject AI or be afraid of AI or
Lean
be,
into it. Yeah.
intimidated by
Yes.
technology is to lean into it.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yes. Yes.
I want to talk about microaggressions. Some people have called them macroaggressions. I guess now we're dealing with things, and we, obviously on the podcast we've had a lot of conversations about this, and how to properly handle it, because I think emotionally, physically, it can take a toll on us. It's very stressful. I've suffered from anxiety. I know a lot of my listeners and watchers or viewers suffer from anxiety and depression. You guys write in the book, I need to take out my glasses to read, because I have a specific incident where one of our guests was shushed in a meeting. Okay. You wrote, although you've raised your hand in an online meeting where input was specifically requested, you are never given an opportunity to share your ideas and your suggestions in the chat room or Q&A portal are not acknowledged or addressed. So, I just wanted to ask about how to deal with that particular one, because it's come up.
Hmm. Well, I think I put that in because I do a lot of work with clients who are they may either be managing teams where they have people who for a number of reasons are not raising their hands because they feel squashed. And so here are some strategies. One is you may just have to send whatever it is you're trying to say to the owner of the meeting. I come into every meeting with, here are the three things I either want to know or say or share. Hopefully there's something I want to share that I've done. So you want to know what you've done so you can share it. And then usually there's some time in the meeting where they're gathering input. And so if your idea is not recognized, if your little hand, I have a little chocolate hand, that
Yeah.
icon thing, if they just keep looking over your chocolate hand, and then they look over what you said, because in chat they said, oh, you may not have seen my hand, here's blah, blah, blah. But I've learned, don't give your whole idea in the chat, because somebody else will take credit for it and say it was theirs. I've learned, let's I can't even say the word, circumvent that, go around that, right to the head of the meeting and say, I don't know if the icons weren't working, but I wanted to make sure you saw this idea. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to make sure you knew I heard what Aaron said and Elaine, and I'd love to work with them and come back to you with a proposal or something. I'm making that up. But I've learned that you have to take ownership. You're going to have to take action. It may not feel good to you. You may not want to do this. But if you want to stay there, and if you want to be, given the gravitas of what your brain power deserves, then you may have to just claim it. All of us have been in a meeting where, I've been in 5,000 meetings where I say something at 10 minutes after 10 that I think would address the situation. Don't nobody say nothing. It's like crickets. And then everybody goes on, they have their coffee, so and so. And then at 10:32, Billy Bob says exactly what I said at 10 minutes after 10. And then the boss says, oh my God, Billy Bob, that's the best idea I've heard today. And that is exactly, why I had this brainstorming session. And I have learned to say, Billy Bob, I am so glad you agree with me. And I would love to discuss this further and bring this back. But you have to know, I'm 73. It took me years to be able to do this. I used to just go out fuming mad. I used to cry in the bathroom. I used to call my girlfriends, because, and I've been hospitalized for depression. I know what depression is. We all know what anxiety is. This world is on fire now. Ain't nobody sleeping that I know of. It's a rough time. But that's why your podcast is so important. That's why we have to lift each other up. So first and foremost, strategize against the microaggression. You can either go at it. You can, if you're being ignored, you can force recognition to the extent that you're able to. But I do find that having things in writing really helps. I had a white boss. I don't even know what it was. I think maybe like Elaine's experience to the college. He may just not have known what to do with me. And so everybody in the department was supposed to meet with him one-on-one for 15 minutes. And he invariably would postpone mine, cancel them, or when he would have them, he would be doing something else. So I would come into the meeting, he would be on the phone. I'm like, well, this is just rude. So I learned I'm going to have me a piece of paper, and I'm going to have a piece of paper for him. And it's going to be, here's what I have accomplished. And here's how much money we have saved the company. And then here's number 2. Here's what I'm planning to do next. And then here's where I need input from you by X date. And after a while, he couldn't ignore me. He didn't ever love me, and I sure never loved him. But he did learn to respond. And then if I didn't hear anything in, 2 or 3 weeks, I'd send a little ting, Mr. So-and-so, I'm just letting you know, I appreciate our meeting on, February 10. It's now February 28. I've not heard anything. So I'm assuming by your silence that you agree with my strategy. Am I correct? But you gotta, this is where the sister part gotta come out. You gotta sister up. You got to sister strategize. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
And then you go to your girlfriends to get the courage to do this. Because there are days when I'm under the bed, totally under the bed, listening to Columbo rerun. That's all I got. I love Columbo. But, you just don't always have it. But when you don't have it, I go to Elaine. I would go to Marcia. We were meeting twice a week on Zoom from anywhere in the country to work on the book. And sometimes it would be, girl, I'm just tired. These white folk are driving me crazy. Or these whatever they are. There's nothing wrong with that. We've helped each other throughout time. And we're going to come through this. And we're going to help each other through this as well.
So just to ask, what did you do when you slid the paper in front of his face the first time?
Oh, he just couldn't believe it because most people, it's supposed to be just a chat. But I found, as you know, in these corporations and performance appraisals and bonus, considerations, this is why, as Elaine was saying, if you don't have your own personal leadership, if you don't have a record of your own stuff, you're going to be surprised in the performance appraisal. You should never be surprised. You should know what they're going to say.
Right.
And you should be ready. I didn't do that. And so I got fired from my first law firm because I was working harder than anybody. I was working so hard. But I frankly was not working strategically or smartly. And I learned the hard way. And I wasn't keeping track. And, so it was very hurtful. Undermined my confidence. Took me a while. But thank God, the next job, again, somebody called me and said, what do you think about this? Yeah. And I'm just so grateful. It changed my life and led on to other good stuff.
And Rhonda mentioned briefly about the personal leadership notebook. I don't want that to sort of slide by so quickly because, we are just so good at what we do professionally that we take ourselves for granted. We don't, recognize how much value we bring to an organization or to a company. So it's so important to write down our accomplishments on a quarterly basis, weekly basis, just so we can keep track. So when we do have the meeting with our boss or do have the feedback meeting, the annual, review meeting, that we do come in prepared with all that we've accomplished, all that we've done, because oftentimes our bosses they're so busy with their own stuff that they don't really remember kind of, what we've done to contribute to the organization or to the department. So that is, that's really important, just writing things down. So we remind ourselves kind of, what we've done.
I love that. I had a boss a long time ago. When I worked at Neiman Marcus corporate for 1 year. I could only stand it for 1 year in their marketing department. And yeah, you'd think it would be a cool place to work. Anyway, but my boss's boss told me one time, you need to be better at self-promotion.
Yes.
And I never forgot it. And it's very hard for me to look at me, because I'm not like, look at me. But when you're talking about this leadership journal, it's so important because when you sit down even I've done exercises where I've used AI. I'm like, let me tell you about this project I worked on, because I'm trying to figure out how to articulate what it is. And what he spits back out to me, it's just like, well, damn, I guess
You're a
that
bad
is,
mama jamma.
yeah, basically, like, okay. So I love that you reminded us about that, Elaine, because I think it's very easy. I think Black women do it just because we're just used to doing so much.
Yes,
We just don't.
absolutely.
We're just servants,
Yes. Beasts of burden.
Yeah. So we just don't acknowledge, which leads me into, I want to talk about this workplace mammying chapter, because I said in one of my videos, I was talking about how I was this woman's work mammy, and when I saw, I was like, oh my God, oh my gosh. I've had people.
That's Rhonda's favorite thing.
Oh,
Our
please.
project bit, they did not want this in the book. They did not like the title.
It's a thing.
Random House didn't
It's
like the
a
title.
thing.
I was like, damn straight. This is going in it's in every book. Because
It's
I
a
was an
thing.
office mammy. I've been one. I
Yeah.
know what it is.
Talk about it.
Well, number one, often we're not even conscious that we're doing it. You just said it, Aaron, and you, Elaine, referred to it either. We are so accustomed to taking care of everyone. I don't know about you, but I'm a firstborn. I'm a Leo. I'm a firstborn of a firstborn of a firstborn.
Leo secondborn.
Hey, I'm a short, fast-talking, fast-walking, get-it-the-hell-done woman. And so when you are presented to people as that woman, and when you see yourself only as that, there's not a lot of room for delegation. There's not a lot of room for people to help you. There's not a lot of room for you to accept help. I'm not an easy person to help, even now.
Yeah.
But what's good about that is you get things done. What's bad about that is often at a high cost to your own either mental health or your own state of health and
Right.
well-being, which is why we talk in the book about, which Elaine wrote so beautifully about, self-care, which we'll get to. But I just want to say, being an office mammy is not necessarily a bad thing, because it means you're nurturing. It means that you are thoughtful. It means you're considerate. Often we're the people that recognize the birthdays, the christenings, the weddings. We train the new people. We offboard the old people. We make sure that folks who are retiring get the right kind of, whatever it is from package. But what I don't like is often then that's all we're known for. And yet you're not thought of as the person who should run the place, who should get promoted to the next rung, who should take the big client, because you're so busy over here bringing the macaroni and cheese and the cookies in. Ain't nothing wrong with it. I'm a damn good cook. I put my feet right in those pots. But that's not all I'm known for. And so I learned from my mentors and sponsors. It's like, because I was known as, my couch was the hot couch. I am not a psychologist. I don't have no kind of degree in problem solving. But people were lined up to talk about their boyfriend, their husband, their difficult children, the boss they couldn't stand. And meanwhile, I'm staying until midnight to get my work done because they took up all my time during the
did
day.
a video about that. Yes.
Okay, so that's what I mean by workplace management.
Yes.
Get that out of your head. You can be nice, but set some boundaries.
Absolutely.
And then get your work done.
Did you want to add, Elaine?
Nope, that's all I have to say. And that's all I have to say about that. Thank you very much, Ms. Rhonda.
Oh my God, I did a video about that. Oh my gosh. So somebody wrote, well, I just act as their, she wrote, because the conversation was, not, giving of yourself too much, just kind of letting white people talk and, not sharing. But she said she acted like their personal, therapist or something. And I was like, no. What are you talking about? Like, that's not your job to do that.
No.
You think that you're getting over on them by doing that? But
No.
I responded. I didn't like that. And we're gonna, because we've been on here for a while. Two more things. You talked about self-care, because I feel like this is self-care. Like what you just talked about, the workplace mamming, the boundaries. We see self-care as, oh, I go to the spa. Oh, I get my nails done. I get my lashes. No. That's not self-care. I think the real way to look at self-care is stuff like this, is protecting your peace, protecting your boundaries. You know, like I'm in the middle of evicting somebody. That's self-care to me. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Because they are going to drive me crazy if I
Definitely.
don't. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to
Yep.
be on edge forever, all the time. So what does self-care look like for you guys? You know, as you know, mature women, help us youngsters.
It's well, for me, it's everything that you just described, Erin. But in addition to that, it's getting your peace and getting your rest. I just got a text from a friend this morning saying she's, busy taking care of her mom, and she's busy producing this film, and she's got to, go back and take care of her, her husband, be with her husband. And I'm like, Robin, just, be mindful to take care of yourself, because you have to be whole and you have to be healthy in order to, share yourself with other people. And we all just have to, it's a crazy world. It is a world that's filled with anxiety. Like you said, Erin, I have anxiety as well. I'm sure people who never had anxiety before now have it. But it's important to, whatever it means to you, I think, whatever gives you peace, whatever gives you rest and peace of mind, I think it's important. Whether it's meditation, for me, it's starting a meditation practice every morning. I've not been consistent with that.
Yeah.
I am making a point to be consistent with that. I am making a point to exercise my body as I'm getting older, and my joints, my muscles are getting tighter, so I need to move them. So it doesn't necessarily mean I go to a gym every day, but it does mean I do some form of movement, because I also, work from home and I'm in a chair for the most
Right.
part. So that's not the best place to be all the time. So getting up and walking, not so much during these months. It's been pretty brutally cold, at
Yeah.
least in the Northeast. But just being mindful of doing what's best for you, so that we can continue to do the work that we're meant to do, or the work that we want to do, taking care of ourselves. It could be something as simple as even taking a bath. I mean, I've
Yeah.
started doing that more often in addition to showers. Something that's very relaxing with lavender, which is my favorite scent.
Yeah.
Very relaxing.
Mm.
Baths are great.
It's a good thing. Yeah, baths are great. So that's kind of what I think of when I think of self-care, just doing what you feel is best for you and gives you comfort and peace.
And for me, self care, I think of it a bit more broadly, and I'm coming from a faith tradition. I really feel, I don't want to proselytize, but, and Marcia would, all three of us, I think, would agree that we really want to live a life of purpose. And that in order to do that, you do need everything that Elaine described and some of the things you and have talked about. You can't give more than you have. So if your cup is empty, it's going to be really hard for you to inspire, empower, and lead others. So I really do my best to have a consistent prayer time, a consistent peace time. I'm a musician, so music is fundamental for me. I have it around me everywhere. I read, I travel. I have some people that are touch points. So there's some people who check in on me. If they haven't heard from me in a little while, they're like, okay, what's going on? And I try to do that for other people as well. I think rest is relative, particularly for Black people. We're not in a peaceful time. So I think it's sort of revolutionary and radical to take time to take time. There's something called the Nap Ministry. I think someone
Yes.
wrote a book
Yes.
called The Nap
Yeah.
Ministry. I think that's fierce. I love everything about that. I don't nap well at all. My brain is just talks too much. So I can't shut it down. I wish I could. But I do use the white noise. I use that really new age music to try to see if I can get my brain cells so that I do try to have some time for that. But I would say peace, rest, prayer, meditation, silence.
I think napping might be like meditation, because I too, Elaine, I go in and out of meditating. Like this morning, I tried to do it in the morning where I'm so whipped up. Like, maybe I'm just not a morning meditator, but I don't want to give up on it so soon. I do better in the evening. But I think napping is one of those things where it's maybe a muscle that you need to like exercise and just keep trying to learn how to cut it off. It's hard for me to nap too. I'm not a bed person, just I'm gonna
I've
nap on
given
the
into
couch.
it, Erin. I mean, I don't necessarily like nap in the bed. I'll sit on my couch and
Mm-hmm.
even like 10, 20 minutes
Yeah.
sometimes I give myself into that and I like wake up and come alive and I feel so
Yeah.
refreshed.
Yeah, I'm a
Yeah.
couch napper if I'm gonna nap. Yeah, if I'm gonna nap, I'm gonna do it on the sofa. Okay, I think the last thing I want to touch on, because we know what's going on in America. We know black women. I found some research. 300. It was between like February and July of 25. I don't know the number for the all entirety of 25, but 319,000 black women out. 365,000 black men gained jobs. Um.
Interesting. Our number is 400,000 black
Okay.
women.
And
Okay.
I actually heard just this week 600,000. So it's
I
very,
heard it was
yeah, I heard
more.
that literally
Yeah.
like yesterday morning. Yeah.
Is that 2025 or to date, Rhonda?
To date.
Okay.
So, what words of encouragement? Because, I'm an entrepreneur. I couldn't do it. You know, they sort of ran me out. I was fine to leave. I was traumatized by it for years. And, I've had my issues as a result of it and had to build myself up after. You guys have gone on to do your own things. What do you say to black women right now? Like, what do you think the next step is for us? Is it to keep trying to wait this out for three more years minimum? What do you say to black women right now? With all that's going on.
Well, I'll just start. I think, I read recently an article in the New York Times that black women are actually turning to each other, and they're taking, they're starting their own support groups,
Yep.
which is something we do talk about in the book a little bit, just, in their own communities.
Yep.
So it doesn't necessarily have to be global or national. But yeah, to lift, I mean, we wrote the book to lift each other, to lift ourselves up. And hopefully our book will do that. But I think, and black women are also turning to like sort of the what I call in between jobs. Just taking a job for the in between times.
Mm-hmm.
Like Erin, you mentioned you worked at Neiman Marcus for a minute. I've done other jobs. I've worked at FedEx office, or I've done other things while I wait for the job that I want to come along.
Yeah.
So there's that as well. And a lot of women are turning to entrepreneurship. They're turning to sort of digging deep inside themselves and using this as an opportunity to start something new or try something new, whether it's, on their own or with a group of women who they've already networked with, which is why it's important to build a network,
Yes.
while you still have a job. And it's not to wait until you need a job. It's like Rhonda said earlier, you don't wait until you need something, to reach out to someone. So that's one reason why fundamentally a network is good to build while you are working, because you do never know when you will need it, down the road. But it's a tough time for black women. I mean, that's the real deal. No one's denying that, and certainly the statistics are proving that.
Mhm.
So again, looking at it as maybe as an opportunity to try something new, to start a new chapter in your life. So, Rhonda, I'm sure you have a lot
No,
more to add.
no, I absolutely agree, and I would just build on that. I'm channeling Marsha. One of the things we've said, we've been talking to women since 2010 when our first book came out. And over those times, as tough as this is, nobody's really talking about the fact that for the 5 years of COVID, hundreds of thousands of black people, but again, more black women than any other group lost their jobs. And one of the things we found is that we did 3 free webinars, and hundreds of women came on just to try to offer support because they were losing their jobs because, you couldn't go to work. You couldn't do the job, even if
Yeah.
you had it. And so what we saw was that was a big peak in entrepreneurship. And not only were black women starting their own businesses, they were hiring other black women, or other black people. So I want to start with black entrepreneurship is also economic growth for the community. It's not just I me. It's I me, you, we, they.
Right.
And we see that as a strength. And as best I can tell, going back to all of the, I feel like this is like reconstruction number 3 that they're trying to do
Mhm.
here. But throughout all the reconstructions, this is what we did. We built each other up. We bartered. We traded your skills, and now you've got skills, Aaron, that I'm probably never going to have. But we could barter. There are things you could trade me, and then I could, trade you. Somebody's reaching out to me, I think, later today to talk about executive coaching. We may barter. But I just feel like the creative spirit that got us here, that Maya Angelou talks about in And Still I Rise, we still got it, baby. We're amazing. We weren't even
So
supposed to
amazing.
survive, to live, to be here. So the fact that you are talking to thousands of women, and through you we can share, that we can lift each other up. And I'm not saying, yes, it's a real number. I'm not going to polish that up. But I am saying that we can survive, we can thrive, we can help each other.
Yes, we can. And that is the purpose. Yeah, we share stories, but also just in an effort to give other Black women tools on how to navigate these situations. And I had this idea to do this podcast. I was in my 50th birthday in Thailand with my girlfriends, and I had the idea before, but we were polishing off the idea in the pool at the villa, and
Love it.
and it took me a while because, fear, just questioning and trying to be so perfect about it, and then just letting it go, because putting yourself out here is,
Scary.
Yeah, it is.
Very.
But if I look back and I'm able to connect the dots, I have similar to you, Elaine. I went to the University of Missouri, Columbia. I'm from St. Louis. Columbia is smack dab in the middle of the state. Okay, it's smack dab in the middle of the state. So we're going to school with all kinds of white folks that have never seen Black people except for like on the Cosby Show or whatever, So dealt with some of that. But I have a journalism degree. I wanted to be Black Barbara Walters, Then I didn't, because I didn't like news. I didn't like being in people's business. Then, maybe like an Oprah-like gig would be good. But, that wasn't really realistic, So I went into advertising. Even in college, I was on NPR radio for 4 years. And, I did all the things. I can look at every career I've had. I can look back, I can connect the dots, and like now I'm here doing my, not like Oprah, but kind of, like my Oprah thing.
I'm like, well, look at her. She's got
Yeah,
It's looking pretty good to me.
So, I can tell you, I'm not a person that works for people. I will get fired. If I just not, you know what I'm saying? And I used to think I was like the only one going through this stuff, and it bothered me. And, I've been through a lot. I've dealt with a lot of self-worth issues professionally because, I worked at a good old boy advertising agency for 7 years in Dallas. Okay. So, that does a number on you,
Yes.
it does a number on you, and
It
then
does.
when I left, I tell the story about this in an episode. I was so pissed and angry and like, fuck you guys, I'm going to show you and all this kind of stuff. And so I'm just throwing money at my first business, doing the dumbest of the dumb, just trying to prove myself to still these people that I didn't even work with anymore, but also to myself, because I haven't worked out what really happened to me and realized that was all some bullshit. And, I really am the shit, but
Yes.
you
Yes,
have
you
to go, you have to go through all of that. And then
Yes.
I got into web after I went bankrupt and lost my home and all the things, from trying to make this business grow to prove that I'm worthy and feel validated and doing all this stupid stuff. And then I started making money. And then I had a big client that, with the, the racist husband and everything. And, they let me go, and which was like the best thing that ever happened, because I probably wouldn't be sitting here right now talking to you. And so it's so sometimes in the face of adversity, we can do amazing things come out of it. And I feel like that's just what's going to happen.
Yes.
I have to believe that.
Yes.
That's a journey too, Erin, to your point. I mean, you lose your job, you grieve, you do whatever, get over it or figure it out, and use it as an opportunity to upskill or opportunity to get a higher education degree, which is something, that I did. I recently got my MFA in creative writing a couple of years ago. So, to all those women all of us who have lost our jobs, just, I see it as an opportunity to reinvent.
Absolutely.
Reinvent yourself, which sounds like exactly what it is that you did.
Yeah, I
Yes.
did. I'm all for reinvention. I think I scare my family a little bit with with every reinvention now. But yeah, this has been a wonderful conversation. I'm really, really excited that you guys contacted me. So guys, if you're listening, go check out the next little black book of success. We've got Elaine and Rhonda and Marsha, the authors of the book. Marsha has recently passed away. That's what these women were talking about as we went through the interview. And I'm so sorry I didn't get to meet her, because obviously she had a tremendous impact on both of you ladies' lives, because just the way you speak about her and everything like that. I want to give you guys an opportunity to tell everybody where they can find you, if they want to reach out and connect with you. And I'm put it on the screen. I'm also going to put it in the description, but some people don't read, so
We know those people. Some of them in our families.
Oh,
So
yeah.
Elaine, you go first.
Okay, I was going to say, Rhonda, you go first with our social media handles, but
No, you
actually, okay, so actually, my email address is the best place to reach me. I'm on LinkedIn, actually.
Okay.
As well. So please reach out to me on LinkedIn. We also have a little Black Book of Success Facebook page, which Rhonda manages, and she is our social media manager. So she'll speak more about other ways to find us and other ways to follow us.
Yes. We are, and this, Erin, you'll just love this. We have a sweet baby-faced marketer who's probably, I have no idea how old she is. She looks like she's 12, but I'm pretty sure she's older than that. But she forced us to create a TikTok account. So the next LBB, we have about 60, 90-second videos that she made us make. And they are on right now. So run, do not walk to TikTok and follow us on the next LBB. And Marsha, our beloved Marsha, you can see her. And I'm also going to say, go to marshahaygood.com. You'll learn all about her. And then she has some beautiful reflections, messages she left for us. For me, I'm at rjmleads.com. That's my website. And then the Little Black Book of Success.com is where you can find out more about us. So you can buy the book wherever books are sold, online, offline. I do want to shout out Mahogany Books, which is a Black-owned book company that's global. We met them in 2011 in D.C. when they were just online. Now they have 3 bricks and mortar stores. Ramunda Locke Young, I love them, love them, love them. You can buy the book anywhere you want to, but please support Sister at mahoganybooks.com.
Yes. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. Maybe
Thank you.
come back sometime. I don't know. I feel like talk to you
We're going
guys.
to connect to you on LinkedIn, and we're going to follow you too.
Yes,
Please
we're going to
do.
follow
Please
you in every way.
Please follow me. I know it's interesting because this podcast, I mean, I'm getting Rebel Geek business, so great.
I love Rebel Geek.
Yeah.
I love that.
I'm such a geek. It's true. And my best friend, she was my first Black friend for real. Came when I was 10 years old. So 1984. Here comes Candy, in the all white school with the all the other little white kids that I have been I wouldn't say tortured by, but been alone with since the first grade. And she helps me come up with my brainstorms and my names. So we've been together. We talk every day, still to this day.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
yeah, it's I'm going to bring her on one day. Black female friendships. That's a conversation in itself.
It's gold. It's
she
gold.
literally changed my life. It was very, very difficult to be out there in the late 70s, early 80s alone. And my sister didn't even realize, my sister's 3 years older, she didn't even realize some of the stuff. She's like, I never knew this was happening. I never knew they did that. I'm like, how did you not know? I'm sure I came home and told mommy about it, but it was really rough, So Black-female friendships is everything, as you guys clearly know. It's everything. Community, Black female community is everything. And if not for any other reason, I hope that whatever we're going through just drives us back to each other, because it is just the most healing, the most therapeutic. Us together is just better than anything that we could want. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much.
Thank
for being
you.
Here.
Ashe. Blessings to you.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes. Everybody check out the book, and we will see you in the next episode.